Good evening. Thank you for adapting to this new environment. We did this a couple weeks ago as well, so appreciate you being here. Well, you're excited about our champs coming in soon, but right now they're going to stay in the hallway if that's cool, because we're gonna figure this out logistically. Extremely excited to have them here. First, we're going to call this regular city council meeting to order. So I'm going to turn it over to Council Member Duckworth, who's going to do the Invocation and Pledge.
All right.
You're on the agenda. I looked at your eyes.
I'm looking at Mark. All right. Good bet. All right. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here together and for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Dear Lord, as we gather here today, we ask that you make us aware of the people suffering, the pain felt from California to Buffalo to Ukraine, the division and grief that's felt out of disasters. Put your comforting arms around, and that you ask that you guide us in ways to be less divisive and work together. And Lord, we ask that you bring that same thing to the city as we work together for the betterment of the city of Clemson, the betterment of all. Please guide us in all we do. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you very much. First of all, all right. First of all, we're going to read a proclamation. We also have a special week. It's National Safe Boating Week. Do we have anybody here to represent? I do not believe so, but I will read this proclamation. Hopefully you can hear me, Lowell. I hate it when, I should say hate it. And it's hard when I don't like being to my back to you. Sorry about that. So, with that said, whereas boating continues to be a popular recreational activity for nearly 100 million Americans, whereas an average of 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, and 75% of those are fatalities caused by drowning. Whereas safe boating begins with preparation. The Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents, and basic safety procedures such as carrying life-saving emergency, distress, and communication equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating can help assure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe throughout the season. Whereas life jackets could prevent nearly 86% of boating fatalities, whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year will be alive today if they had worn their life jackets. Whereas National Safety Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so they can have a safe, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Robert Halfaker, Mayor of the City of Clemson, South Carolina, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 21st through 27th, 2022 as National Safe Boating Week in Clemson and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. Furthermore, we urge all those who boat to practice safe boating habits and wear a life jacket at all times while boating. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed the 16th day of May 2022. All right, guys, y'all ready? We're going to read you. We are pleased to have the state champions coming off Friday's incredible win and being here on Monday night. This is very exciting. So I'm going to read this first, and then I'm going to let you get a chance to say something, Ezra, okay? You're on the spot. You're looking right at me, Ezra. Ezra's known me for a long time, so here's his chance to say whatever he wants.
Oh, you want to kind of come like...
Yeah, come on, Lionel. Yeah.
Kind of go both sides right here. You can stay where you are, but he said you're the spokesperson.
Hey, you're going to be the spokesperson. Yeah.
This way, some of y'all.
There you go.
There you go. And go the other way, too, son.
Go that way.
Y'all good?
More.
Good? Good. Come on in. Jack, come on back. Come on, man.
Going around.
What's up?
Never took this many people to field a soccer team.
Go.
Coach? Glad you're here. All right. So I'm gonna read this, and then you get a chance, Ezra. You ready? No pressure. I love it. All right. This proclamation is recognition of the achievement of the 2022 Daniel High School Lions 3A soccer state champions. Whereas high school athletes have always played an important role in developing civic pride and lifelong bonds between teammates and the community. Whereas in 2022, the DW Daniel High School Lions soccer program embodied a team in every sense of the word, with 25 highly skilled and united players and 7 outstanding coaches. Whereas the hard work, dedication, talent, sportsmanship exhibited throughout the season enabled these student athletes to win the 2022 South Carolina AAA State Championship. You can clap for that one. Come on. Whereas the team finished the regular season with a 22-5 overall record and an undefeated 10-0 region record. Whereas the Final Four, Daniel defeated Powdersville 2-1, and in the final championship game, which included 4 overtime periods and a 1.5-hour rain delay, Daniel defeated Brooklyn Casey 3-1 in penalty kicks after a 3-3 score. And whereas Daniel Soccer has won 7 consecutive regional titles, with the last region lost in 2019, but this is the first state championship win since 2003. Whereas this win caps off Coach Philip Boyer's 11th and final year of coaching with this first title. Now, therefore, I, Robert Halfaker, Mayor of the City of Clemson, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim May 16, 2022 as a day to honor the 2022 Daniel High School soccer program, as well as the students, teachers, faculty, administration for their great accomplishments. In witness whereof, and I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed the 16th day of May of 2022. Ezra, you're the spokesman now. Speech. I love it. I love it. I know. Look, Lowell's videotaping you right there. So this is perfect. This is great.
I just want to say thank you. The team would like to say thank you as well. I mean, this is very important, and we worked really hard for this state championship. And Coach Boyer is the best coach that we had, so it's really good to cap this season off winning the state championship. And without all these guys, we wouldn't be here. So the parents and the fans and the teachers and everybody that's helped us is just as important as we were. So I really appreciate it. The team really appreciates it. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Doing great.
Thank you.
All right.
How's that gonna go?
I don't know. But we're going to try it. So, some up front, maybe? Stand back here. Does that work?
Right in the middle of the table.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Anthony, you already know. You already know. Jack.
Hey, yeah.
Front center right now. Front.
Might as well take it.
We're not in.
We can take these.
Right here.
There we go.
Jack, you gotta, y'all gotta get in the front. No, they got it. Keep pushing. I'm short now. Yeah.
Slowly.
Is that good?
Call, Ethan. Can't train. Like cameras.
All right, where do we look?
At all the Thank you, guys. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that supported us in the community. Obviously, we see their families more, so we get the chance to say that more, but to anyone that supported us along the way that maybe we haven't had the opportunity to thank, we absolutely did this not just for ourselves, but for the school, for the community. We know where Daniel's supposed to be, and we're glad that we were able to place him back there, so thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We expect to see you next year, too.
Gotta keep it clean.
Hey, thank you, Coach.
Thank you,
Yes, sir. Good.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Good, Jack. Rest that torn ACL. I didn't know you were.
Yeah, getting the official MRI tomorrow.
Where you going? Oh, wow.
I guess, part of me could have handled it.
Thank you.
Look at you.
Hey.
Safety first, right? See you, Carlos.
Unbelievable. I know, that wasn't the answer you or I was expecting. That was not it.
All right.
Elaine, thank you for moving to sanitizer.
Yeah. So for the ones staying for the meeting, we appreciate it. All right, so we'll turn it over to public session, and I will turn it over to Councilmember Smith.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Glad you all are here with us today. This is an opportunity, if you have something you'd like to say or make sure that we are aware as a council, this is your opportunity. We ask that you speak for when you come to the podium, give your name and your address, and also sign in. And then those who are on Zoom, if you want to ask a question, speak, you need to raise your hand, and we will acknowledge you. So, this is your time. Elaine, looks like you have, come on up. Okay.
And y'all will be glad to know I'm not here to talk about traffic or buildings or any of that kind of stuff. I'm here to talk about animals. At some time in the near future, the Police Advisory Board will present you, council, with a tethering ordinance for the city of Clemson. I'm here tonight not as a member of this board, which I am, but as a present and longtime dog owner and resident of Clemson. I'm here to ask you to consider, when discussing this ordinance, to remember that this ordinance was written to protect pets or animals. It was not written to accommodate the individual circumstances in each pet owner's life. Owning pets, like owning any other property, comes with certain responsibilities for upkeep. What distinguishes this property, pets, from other property is that animals are living and breathing things. When maintained properly, they become part of our households, mental and physical companions, home alarm systems, police and military officers, and comfort for the elderly. I could go on and on with this train of thought. They can't aspire to these conditions on the end of a tether for 8 hours plus, with little human interaction and proper training. Hopefully, the instructions for tethering that are addressed in the ordinance will serve as a guide for proper ownership. Also, because this is a city ordinance, we must remember that in Clemson, we live in close proximity to our neighbors, and proper care of our pets can have a direct influence on other families as well. It is virtually impossible to design laws that meet individual lifestyle needs, such as work schedule, economic ability, or even personal opinions. But it is possible to protect their individual properties. In this case, that would be pets. Laws and ordinances are made for the general public, and it is our responsibility to abide by them. As for those with no clue, this can be an educational process as well. So again, I ask you to remember that this ordinance is about the animals, not about people. They give a lot and ask for very little. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments at this time? Don't think any have raised their hand. Well, public session at this time and turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Our next item is the approval of minutes for May 5th, 2022. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 5th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, any comment, discussion? I will make a note, I was not here, so I will not vote on it, so. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Reports, discussion agenda, receive tourism point, report from Cade, the Clemson Area Chamber of Commerce. Well, actually, Andy, you're on here, but you're gonna introduce Cade, is that what?
Cade is the tourism coordinator.
Yes, there you go, bam, bam, sorry, Cade, I just jumped right in, eye contact, okay?
You're good there. Just a quick recap of what I'm gonna present. It's kind of a breakdown of our spring run, kind of our annual update that I haven't been able to give the last couple of years because of COVID. So this year we had 24 teams, 1,194 athletes, just under 2,800 room nights estimated, and total expenditures estimated was $739,457, economic impact of $2.2 million. Additional economic impact in the area as far as teams that fly in to Greenville, Charlotte, or Atlanta, rent buses and vans from there was additional economic impact of about $750,000. So total to the area, to the upstate and other parts is going to be almost $3 million. So we're about 15 to 20% off of where we were in 2019, but considering coming back from COVID, we're pretty good numbers on that. I think it's our third best season we've ever had. So we're still right there on that. The majority of what we're missing that we didn't get returning was the high school teams so far. Previously in 2019, we had 9 high school teams, and this season we only had 2. So you take out 30 kids on a team, 7 teams, there's your 210 athletes that puts us up at our 1,400 number where we were at in 2019. So kind of where we were at.
Kate, do we advertise for that? Do you market?
Yes, I attend the U.S. Rowing Annual Convention, and we recruit that event, and then we also advertise in Rowing Magazine. So, and that pretty much covers all aspects of it.
So, do you have a sense of how much this money was spent in Clemson and how much was spent elsewhere?
The majority of the $739,000 would have all been spent in Clemson proper. Because that's hotel rooms, meal plans, facility fees that they paid us, gas, outside dining, kids that they stay in the hotel and they run across the street to grab a burger late at night or something like that. Shopping, different things. They go over to the grocery store, they go to CVS because they didn't bring suntan lotion with them. Just different things. Launch repairs that we do, launch repairs that the teams do, things like that. So the majority of it is going to be in Clemson, or unfortunately, Lakeside Lodge and True. We did lose a lot of hotel stays to those 2 places this year. But a lot of that is the proximity of the rowing center being at the old Y Beach facility and the university's varsity facility, that both of those facilities are within walking distance.
Okay. And what was the city's expenses to do this?
Just whatever
Your trip or
yeah.
Cade?
So the lodging in those 2 places are not in these numbers here?
No, it's all in there.
They're in here, okay.
So I just don't know.
You break out, okay.
How many stayed where.
Okay, I got it, okay.
No, our only expenses is, the advertising to get them here. I pay, normally, we didn't do any advertising this past season for it, because we didn't know for sure because of COVID, if it was gonna have an outbreak and everything else. So we normally pay $16.25 a month in Rowing Magazine, and we usually do that for 6 months. So usually our cost of that is about $10 grand, which comes out of our advertising budget. And then, the convention, to attend the convention, depending on location and stuff like that, usually costs us about $3 grand to go to that. But once again, that comes out of the tourism budget, it's something additional that the city's paying for.
Do we have any competitors, other cities that do this that we compete with?
Yeah, Gainesville does it, down in Georgia on Lake
Lanier.
Lanier.
Right.
Tennessee does it at Oak Ridge on the river. Columbia does it as well. Camp Bob Cooper does it, the other university facility. And then obviously Tampa, Miami, all places, Sarasota, all places in Florida, and you start going kind of west down the coastline, you'll have places in Alabama that they'll go. Some of the teams, go to Austin, Texas and stuff. It's really just kind of, we're in that area where we catch a lot of the teams from the Northeast and the Midwest, and the teams go further over, once you get over to like Illinois, start going kind of straight down 65, 75, so.
Kay, do you think moving it to 12 Mile will motivate people to stay on this side of the river?
I think it'll help. You're gonna have some teams that the Shrew is a low cost, and they've got the pool tables and ping pong tables and stuff in the lobby. As far as giving their kids something to do, they're gonna stay there just because of that. But I think the majority of teams, yes, will come over to this side because it'll be more convenient. I know we're way off on a different tangent and Green Crescent Trail related, but if we ever got some kind of safe passage for pedestrians from hotels to 12 Mile, I think you could really encourage the teams to stay on this side of the lake. If it cut out transportation for a lot of them, they could cut down on the number of vans and stuff that they're bringing, renting while they're here, so.
Kate and I met with some coaches out at 12 Mile for a site visit while they were here this season to find out what kind of work we needed to do out there to make the site suitable for their needs. Very little modifications, just a couple little trees, like underbrush type of stuff, just so the boats can make the angles. But it was a lot more ready-made than we had anticipated.
Are they concerned about their trailers?
Yes and no.
Yes, no.
Obviously, one of the things we talked about was shutting down the boat ramp. And if we shut down the boat ramp, then you've got an open area for trailers to park in. If you're up in the kind of parking area now that would be for the beach area, we'd have to limit the trailers up there, just because they don't want to park underneath trees. So, we'd have to really look at going through, especially in that area, cutting out dead limbs, some things like that, and just maybe trimming up some things, and taking some of the danger away. Just because they're $50,000 to $60,000 boats, and they usually have about 8 or 10 of them with them, so.
Money.
Yeah, and you could punch a hole in the side of the thing, so.
Okay.
Nope, coming back off of COVID, thought it was a pretty good season this year,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you, Kay, for the report.
Felt like spring.
Thank you.
There you go.
In town.
Appreciate the update. Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Kay. Appreciate it. Next, Fran, you're up to discuss modifications to the site management plan program.
So, as I said last week, I was surprised that we had a site management agreement program. And I think the responsibility that was pointed out to us the last meeting, in terms of council's role in all this, got me to thinking, and all of us, that we have a different role than what she role right now. So I'm suggesting that we at least have a discussion that when there is any development that's more than a single home, that we have a city council member who's
appointed basically the city's council's liaison to that development. That would be the group, that individual will be the one very aware of the agreement, visit the site regularly to make sure things are going on. If there's an issue, they can be called directly. Now, I want to be cautious, right? I'm not saying we're going to do what planning and code should be doing. I'm not saying that's our business to manage them or micromanage them. That's why I say this would be our liaison. But I just think it'd be helpful to us, to me, if there is a sense of what's going on in these developments that is outside sort of departments that have a very different responsibility than I think we have as resident or as council members. So I would suggest at the minimum we look into having one council member identified as liaison for that area, for that development. Make it very clear to the residents where the site management agreements and any documents actually are going to be posted so people can find those very easily and very simply without having to search for them. And make it very clear to residents that when this development starts, this when we get to this point, this is what's going to be available in terms of that constant flow of information. Make sure the residents are involved as much as anyone else. And when I say residents, I don't mean just necessarily people that live there. I mean, we are Clemson small enough that honestly, this is just one neighborhood. So that would extend beyond sort of the properties abutting there into any neighborhood. It's sort of, we would represent the residents directly in this, since we work for the residents, and be vigilant in ways that I think someone said last week or 2 weeks, there may be problems, but if no one tells us that at this point, we don't know. I think this is one more maybe level up of vigilance where we know we will be aware of not just problems, but also successes and other things going on without co-opting, planning code jobs, but more completely, I think, meeting our responsibility to the residents that projects are being done, but they're being done the right way, and if they're not, there's a way to stop them and move in a direction. I don't know what else we would do, but that's just off top of my head.
I got three things. First of all, a comment. I thought it was the site management plan was to be given to any business and or resident that was essentially impacted. So, all the residents, say, for example, at Holiday West should have gotten a copy of that, as well as those businesses. The same thing on on Hunter. All those residents up and down Hunter should have gotten a copy of it. I assume they did, but, I thought that was part of the procedure. The other two things, though, from a comment standpoint, the city logo needs to be on this document. It's nowhere the document, the last one we saw, doesn't have a logo anywhere. And secondly, I think it needs to be signed by somebody from the city, does it not? Those are the only two things I'd add to that.
I would think so. Mine is the education, it's about putting stuff out like always, because, turned to find out there actually was notification to a couple of residents that this one existed in December of 2020. And for everyone on council and in the city, there was actually in the community connector a list of projects, and also at that time, there was a site management plan. The problem is it didn't go into any detail about what it is. So we've got to it's great to have it and say you're going to do it, but there's got to be an educational component, because I think some of this could have been avoided just maybe people read it but didn't understand what it meant. So I think we should be able to, we're going to have to kind of flesh that out with it as well. And I think that giving it to everyone who owns property adjacent is a big key of that, and maybe holding a meeting to educate them at that time what it is, and each council member. I appreciate what you're saying, probably about having one person assign, but to me, we're all assigned, because we're all going to be notified, and all should be emailed, and if I get one, I should be sending it to everyone on here. So, just kind of understanding our role and pushing the right contacts through as well, because from an education component, planning codes is kind of the filter for a lot of it. It's police for a lot of it, it's engineering for a lot of it. So we got to, I just think it needs to be detailed. We got to do a better job with it. We got to have a better plan, but to do that, we got to understand it and make sure other people understand it.
I agree. I think we probably also should have, I didn't think about this till you said that, John, a sign at each property clearly stating who to contact and who would be a person to discuss this with.
All right.
Yeah, and because my thoughts are similar to what John just said, because I do agree with you, but from my understanding, this was something that was pretty, I won't say new, but we hadn't really experienced this type of growth so quickly. And so I think this has been that teachable moment, this learning experience for all of us. So as we develop the plan, we definitely do have to have the education piece. So even those of us who serve on city council, to your point, we need to be in the know, but we need to also understand what it is that we're in the know about. So we can be able to direct and guide. If we get those emails or we get contacted, we can help our residents, but we can always come back to this agreement. And I do agree that it needs to be on, because that doesn't, not that it should be, but it doesn't make it official, so to speak, because there is no letterhead. There is no, this is the agreement. It just looks like something that we typed and put together. Not that that's a nod, but that's what, when I saw that, that's what I was thinking. How do we make this legitimate and make it that the city is aware?
It needs to evolve.
It needs to evolve. So I think as we go through it, those are some things that I would want to look at and make sure. And it could be the planning code who letterhead is on, but it does need to be something that's more of an official document than what we have right here.
Who did this document? Who designed it, who developed it, who stated requirements, you're right, John, it's not signed by anyone.
Yeah.
Is this a legal document, is it just an idea?
What happened was, a few years ago, I'm gonna try not to get it dry, I got the allergies, but a few years ago, we were, on the staff level, we were getting overrun with construction issues, because we've never dealt with really big construction in tight areas, like, Earl Street project, University Center, things like that, that impacted a lot of people in a lot of ways, and a lot of different staff had to be coordinated to do it. So planning came up with this idea, we're gonna come up with a site management plan, and it is going to be a way, and we identified all the people in the city that we thought needed to be involved in this group, and we created an email distribution list. And this was intended to be just an internal way to organize our efforts. And then it has evolved since then, and I'm on it, Nathan's on it, Ethan's on it, Chief Campos is on it, and several people are on this list. And like stormwater, for instance, we have a stormwater manual, and that manual specifies what is required of each site when you're doing this. So that's what's put in the document, is what those requirements are. And then each project is different. What worked out really well was the one for the Shepherd Hotel. And I think why that one was so effective was because we had a pre-construction meeting with all the businesses down there. And they had a lot of logistical issues associated with that weren't typical to like a neighborhood type of a situation. We had a lot of public safety issues. We had a lot of public access issues, things like that needed to be coordinated. So that one, we had a pre-construction meeting. We had the entire team there, and we developed the document. We made everyone aware of what was in the document. We made everyone aware that the document cannot be changed without the authorization of everyone who was in that room to begin with, that understood what the document was to be. And then we went to work. And the trouble is, staff has to catch and identify these things, so we rely a lot on residents and the stakeholders in the area to do it. So I was thinking one improvement could be, how do I report a violation? What do we need to take action? Usually a picture is all I need, or anybody needs. Because we have to actually see the offense taking place. So if you can have that, and if on the document, because if we give every person the site management plan and it has the contact info, for stormwater, call Ethan. For traffic, call Captain Hurd, or whoever it might be, and just have these names down there, and then these be the people who are at that pre-construction meeting that we would have on site just to introduce ourselves. And then I like the idea of having the sign there, maybe a QR code, maybe just an old-fashioned sign with names and numbers on it, a copy of the agreement. But what we learned is that it started needing to evolve from an internal management process to more of an externally facing agreement as the projects got more and more complex.
Robert, can I say something?
Absolutely.
Well, I shouldn't have, are you done? I'm sorry, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
there's a couple things here that strike me, which is, first of all, I'm sort of surprised to hear you say all this snuck up, because I remember talking about game day condos in 2004, 2005, if anybody remembers that was first supposed to be where the movie theater was. That was the first time that development was supposed to kind of be leveled. But I think the problem here, to me, is that right now there is no trust from our residents that if you call anybody at the city and say this is a problem on Hunter Avenue, that anything is going to happen. The trees are already gone on Hunter, no matter what the canopy was supposed to be. It's already a mess. And that's the concern, is I feel like from what I hear from my residents, the neighbors where I live, that's the problem. So whatever steps we take, and that's why I think Fran's idea is a good one, that we have to be accountable, because the feeling right now is if you call the city office, nothing will happen. And that's gone through, we're at the second administration of the trend of watching developers and being cautious. And I personally am not sure what has changed, and that's a concern. But I think you're right in that if we think about it as an external facing document, it is a contract to me that we have with the residents of the city. And that's how I think it should be thought of. Now, I don't know, Mary, we can't get all the residents to sign it, but you know, it's like a syllabus for those of us who have taught. Your syllabus is a contract with your students. And that's how seriously I think we need to take this. It's not just something passed from one office to another. Because it's not fair for Ethan to get a call and not necessarily know what the options are. And again, that's why I think one of us, at least with the right phone numbers and the ability to track down the person who's accountable, that's what I think has to happen here. People want to see accountability. And that's where, before they destroy Berkeley, before Hunter is completely demolished, I think we need to be very swift in our actions.
So, is there, when a development's approved, is there a checklist they have to go through before they get a permit to start building? Like literally, or the boxes they have to have checked off?
Well, there's certain permits they have to get before they start. I mean, they have to have their plans pre-approved. They have to get their grading permits, things of that nature.
So I guess I would suggest that whatever emerges from this group be part of that, literally, checklist.
Yeah, the site management plan is part of it.
And council liaison appointed or elected.
Well, I want to interject one thing, though. Like, let's just use Hunter as an example. Planning Commission blessed that deal, and I don't know what was stated as far as canopy or trees. I don't have any clue what they approved or didn't approve, and I don't know whether they violated it or not. But I guess at the end of the day, and we use the one on Berkeley that's coming, I'm assuming the Planning Commission will have a seat at the table, so to speak, as far as that particular deal is concerned as well. So I think they become almost the firewall, they become almost the developer, so to speak, of what that site plan ultimately should look like, shouldn't it?
When it comes to your canopy, if it's not a PD, it goes back to what the city zoning we require. So there's land regs within the city of Clemson, and all that's spelled out and defined in there. I can't remember how many years ago they were updated and passed, but they show up at Hunter, because I don't think that was a PD, I think that's straight zoning.
It's straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so as will Berkeley. So if you go to the land regs in the city, that will tell you, correct, Nathan, what the canopy looks like.
Is Berkeley it's not a PD?
No.
I don't believe so.
2019.
Okay, either way,
Yes, I don't know what Berkeley's gonna be, I'm just.
either way, yeah, I understand what you're
Where it
And we met-
could have come from or not come from,
And
as you
John,
wanted, so.
I'm suggesting that the council liaison, if we go that way, steps in after the planning commission's done.
Right.
After all this is set up, the project has met all the things that need to be met. Now it's operating, something happens, stormwater,
Oh, yeah.
mudslides, whatever. People in the city know what to do, council members or liaisons apprised of that. I think it's just another level of accountability.
Certainly.
That
Right.
we haven't had from the council perspective, might be appropriate. It wouldn't get in the way, just like wouldn't get in the way of planning codes. Would not do anything superseding the planning commission. That process would be effective.
Okay.
And Like I said, man, that's what I was gonna ask, PC doesn't have a decision in that, we would have to go back and revisit our land regs for what y'all's two specific issues.
Yeah. And I'm working on that, because, for example, I didn't know that the 25% canopy that's in the regs can be for future 25%, it doesn't have to be. And that our fine when you take down a giant tree, is only $1,000. And so it's not really worth it to them to lose that tree.
Putting in the tree, don't you?
You know, so yeah.
Whoever said the syllabus was a contract, I was in breach with my syllabus also, so.
From the doing end. So, Andy, what's the next step? Do we have to codify this, or does this become part of this liaison notion, the other things you've identified?
Well, I think we could, staff could come up with, some upgrades to the plan, come site management plan 2.0, and we can present it to the planning commission and see what their thoughts are on it, and, bring a revision to you guys. Because right now, it's, you know, so we can have something that's like an official, so we know that each project will be handled with a minimum standard of care for each one. And in the meantime, we won't wait on that process, but we will go out with the Hunter Avenue people in Berkeley and just do the pre-construction type of meeting, and hand out the agreements that are there, who to call.
And I think one of the things we suggested is that our responsibility isn't just site plan related. It's really anything, I mean, the management, this thing, it's the whole operation, what's going on at the site. So it could be something that's not in the site management, a neighborhood, or an issue as comes up for an individual.
Sure, we probably won't be able to anticipate every thing, but as long as they know who to call for a certain type of thing, that's the most important thing. Because if you leave a voicemail on someone's phone and they're not the right person, you gotta wait on them to get the message and then call the right person. And then by then, the violation is cleared out of the way, and if no one took a picture, then we can just go slap them on the wrist. But
How often did we ever find any of the construction guys at Holiday West?
Holiday, they have been, well, it started off where we would just issue a fine per violation, but we found out that contractors just turned that into like a cost of doing business. So we just did fine after fine after fine. So what we changed it to is you get 3 strikes and then we shut down the project. That got more attention. So, we've had to shut down, I think, every project we've done except one at some point in the process.
And did you have anything?
Thank you, Andy.
The only thing I was just gonna add, I think the discussion was good, comments are good. Another layer, like Fran said, you know, of accountability. But I do want to also say, just me speaking out here, that, you know, I know I work with a lot of departments, we all do, and I know how much, and I look at 2 in particular right in front of me, anytime I have responded to or reached out to them, they've been very accountable. So, and I'm looking at Ethan and Nathan, sorry, I'm highlighting it. I could say Lindsay as well. So, I just want to make sure that we keep that in the big picture. You know, we challenge our employees to do a great job, and they're in that role to do a job, and Andy helps with the leadership as well as Ellie and many others. We just want to make sure we're helping to offer to make it better, as Alicia said. We're going to make it better going forward.
I mean, yeah, just to be clear, I'm not criticizing anyone other than council. I'm putting this on us for not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So
I heard some trust, and I get it.
To you, it really is, I'm criticizing us.
Okay.
In terms of, I think we dropped the ball on this, and this might be a little help. I have no offense to.
While I've got everybody here and y'all are on topic, is, do you want liaisons assigned, I mean, what are your boundaries? Large projects, medium projects, single-family houses in residential neighborhoods? I mean, that might help, Andy and his staff as they take it to the planning commission. Do you want it for every project, or?
Every project to me more than one house.
That's what I wrote down.
Yeah. If you're building your house, you can manage your site, I'm good.
But that still doesn't mean that builder wouldn't have to adhere to the stormwater. I mean, they still could cover, that's not a get out of jail free card.
That's, yeah, sorry, that's not what I intended, no. What I said was that they were responsible, that I didn't intend for it, that they wouldn't, that the laws wouldn't apply to them. But who would you say, if you're building your own house? Okay. You don't need a council or overseeing. I know, I'm sorry, we're all addressing.
Well, the council members need to understand their role as well, because again, we're gonna just be, all we're doing is helping playing traffic cop, for lack of better words. That just kinda needs to be, again, in our educational component, because we need to make sure.
Right.
Because, I guess what I'm going with that is it may need to be more points of contact than just council, because all of us have jobs and other things, whereas staff members it may be resolved, and I hope it is by the time we get to it. So again, just, if we're gonna define this, we need to kinda lay it out and put some thought into it.
All right, thank you, Fran, appreciate it. Next is to discuss the residential participation of the municipal overhead to underground conversion plan with Duke Energy. Hallie?
So many of you all know about Duke Energy's municipal overhead to underground conversion program. It's a program that allows for 5% of the annual gross revenue that's received from electric bills in the city goes into a pot at Duke. And by entering into an MOU with Duke, it will allow for the city to start a program which will allow residents who want to do the overhead to underground conversion to apply with the city, and the city would split a subsidy with Duke. For example, in Greenville, they do $750 Duke pays, $750 the city pays for a $1,500 stipend. That's what staff would recommend doing for the city, for us as well. It would be managed in-house by myself, and we would work with Duke. Residents would apply to the city directly, so we would be that contact person for them. Duke is working on getting us a draft MOU, but I wanted to present it to you and get any questions that I can go back to Duke with if you have any.
Was this what we discussed almost a year ago, of where there were outages more often, and that was how we were, okay. I just want to make sure it was the same thing.
Yeah, we were, this is a little bit different in that we were looking for projects, like major projects to do, because this money has to be spent or it rolls off. So what some communities are doing now is this home program, where you can have the feed from the pole to your house put underground. And that will allow us to provide a service to our citizens to help with their power resiliency and help us make sure we get the most value out of those dollars.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that your power won't go out, but it means that if something falls on your line, on the service line, the main service line, that's all they would have to fix. They wouldn't have to fix the one coming to your house too. So it hopes to speed up that time.
Aesthetically more pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
Down in Greenville, so they split it half and half, up to $1,500, and if it's over that, I guess the resident's responsible. But there's also, when you do this, the meter, there's some changes there that are not captured in the Duke, and I think Greenville's providing some incentive there. Are we looking to do anything in that, or are we gonna limit it purely to the line?
So Greenville provides a $300 subsidy, and we do not have that in our projections. That would have to come from our general fund budget, and we just don't have that this year. We could make changes to the program as we move forward, and we see if that's a need that we need.
So we renew this with Duke each year, update the MOU.
Well, we don't know how many people will use it, so it's hard to tell. It may be that we can, because we can afford it based on scale.
Now, I think the big thing is to get it in place, because that is, I mean, I know it resets, what, 0.5%, you said each year it goes into it,
It
so.
will every 5 years. So our balance as of last June was $388,190. So we'll get a new balance in the end of June, but it'll be roughly that same amount.
Your summer roll off, basically.
Okay, to me, it's a no-brainer. I think
Yeah, I was about to
do
say,
that. I
I'll
think
do
it's
that.
a great opportunity, and if a resident wants to pony up their part of it, then.
My question though is, you said we would have to apply, residents would have to apply. Is there like a cap or a limit,
No,
until money runs
they
out?
would just come to me, instead of going directly to Duke to start the process, it would be kind of a more in-house program. So they would come to me with I don't know what the application would look like. And then I would communicate with Duke, here's where we need it at. They would give us the amount. Sometimes it might be less than 1,500, or sometimes it might be more, just depending on the size of the project. But it would just be us managing it versus an outside party.
Well, yeah, I guess my question is, so if a resident applied, is there a possibility they'd be turned down?
No, I don't think so, unless we ran out of
They ran out of money.
but I don't see that happening.
Okay.
That'd be a lot.
It'd be a good problem if we went through that.
That would be a
I mean, have we,
Well, I didn't, you say criteria, I'm not sure what the application, what's the requirement?
do our residents know they have this?
Right, that's.
Not yet, we would have to market it once
Okay.
we decide. They have some blanket documents that Greenville did, so we would change it to us and we would get that
Okay,
out there.
all right, okay.
Because sometimes Duke Power, like, if you add heated and cooled space to your house and you add enough square feet, they'll do that for free.
Oh,
Where we would not have to spend the money for people that maybe were adding, square footage to their homes.
Okay.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Thank you.
that's a cool program.
Moving forward. Thank you. All right, let's move on. All right. Nathan, you're up next to talk about renovate the police substation and other improvements downtown.
Good evening. So the general plan to renovate some of the curbs, including Addison Lane and then the back parking area and Addison, and then also the substation itself. The proposal would also include modifying the pavers to a new, more sustainable vision is what we're kind of looking at, and that would be what we would use to replicate throughout downtown as we were able to borrow the funds to do that project. There's some aging infrastructure, water, sewer, stormwater, that will have to be replaced. That's going to be a part of this. Obviously, start underground and move our way up so we can get everything working correctly, and then hopefully have another 20 or 30 years before we have to touch it again. So, in general, that's kind of the plan, but I'm open for any questions.
I can tell you, these guys work really hard, Ally and Nathan, all of the staff, money's tight. So this has to be a phased approach. This is much smaller than what we ideally would have liked to have taken on to, but, we've got to be responsible and try to fit it in as well. But we've got the oldest, worst building downtown that is on the verge of being unusable. That's something we have to be cognizant of as well. And I know we all want our eventual downtown corridor plan, but we got to start somewhere, and that's going to be years before it looks like we have that type of money. And starting this envelope will be a great phase, and they've already sequenced out where our next one's going to be, where we can address sidewalk issues, to maybe move from pavers to sidewalks, different ideas in there. Embedded in here with our trees are some particulars like maybe depensifying. We want to keep our canopy, but somewhere where there's 9 crepe myrtles, maybe now there's 4, but they're much larger trees and much trees that can get up over the awning. So this first phase right here, it fits within our budget. We had the means to do this already, which is a very important thing, and there's some really aesthetically pleasing things for downtown too. You get your planning and codes building fixed, you get that area, that building envelope. You get a sample of the sidewalk in there about what you could do with the rest of your phases as money comes along, because they're already chasing some grants that could do a lot longer sidewalk version, but there's money in here too to kind of have like some music downtown, upgrade electrical, Christmas lights, Edison lights, things that we just aren't able to do. That can happen within this budget right here. So I'm passionate about it because I've been in there meeting with them, and I know these folks have been working hard, and I'd like to be able to do the whole thing, but
this is what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about. Everything I just said is in there. I'm just telling you that.
No, but everything is on this is what we're gonna do.
Yes.
Okay.
This is what we'll do if council
Right.
is on board with this project and this funding mechanism. In the meantime, I believe the staff is also working on plans to look at grants so you can expand. They've already planned out where the next phasing of sidewalks, how we would lay out to ultimately do the downtown in sections. We don't have the money to do it all at once.
Right.
We can phase in and just roll right into it. So
There's 2 different grant opportunities, both, one is through ARC, which would be a $50,000 grant opportunity. I believe there's not a match on that one. That application would be due till February, so then we'd be probably 6 months out before we'd even be able to hear anything. So you're significantly a period of time on that. And the other one would be a CDBG fund, with a maximum of $750,000, with a 10% match. That application is due in August. So, or application request, and then the application itself is due in September. So that one would be a little bit more time sensitive for what we're kind of looking at, but it would give us an opportunity to maybe extend our funds that we currently have to be able to expand what we can actually.
Get a little more sidewalk into it. They've got, this is phase one. There's a 1A out there, which is where this rolls and all that, so I would say they need to go for it. We as a city need to go for this, because that's an area that needs improving in a building. We need the use of that building as a city, so.
Nathan, do you need help on the grant?
I believe we'd probably go with Arlene Young to help us.
For a grant of that size, like a CDBG grant or an ARC grant, I would definitely go through the COG.
So does this mean we are not going, a parking deck is no longer in our plans for the future?
Correct.
So that's.
No, that's, we're taking $350,000 that you've had in reserve, just a portion of that money. And the reason I'm saying that is because that's coming from the hospitality tax and hospitality fee, so it's an eligible expense. But also, you're likely to make that up very quickly when you do the on-street metered parking program. So it's a revenue that can be used immediately now and then quickly replaced well before you build a parking deck.
Kind of cash flow and cash balance. I mean, there's cash, but there's cash flow. And that's what is allowing us to capture. And still do the parking deck, because that comes online on there as well.
So, and I'm fine with it. Actually, you mentioned this, John. So there is a downtown master plan already that we pay a consultant or somebody to help with. Does this affect that, the timing of that? Does this replace that? So how does this link to the plan?
To me, the downtown corridor study we did, it doesn't impact, if we get the funding where we can roll that through, you'd still be able to do that, because that plan required a parking deck, because it took away on-street parking, it required festival streets, it required a lot of utility work. I mean, that's probably at least a $20 million plan now. Is that probably fair to say with all the utilities, if not higher, and going up rapidly? So phasing it in like this and dealing with sidewalks, so if you did a festival street and you were in that plan and you had to dig up that street and you had to do it, now you're gonna raise that up. So it's not gonna stop you from finishing the street and doing that. Going with the bigger trees in the boxes actually lends itself as a step towards that project now, as opposed to what we have with the smaller trees kind of crowded in there. So he's an engineer, he's a smarter guy, but in my opinion, it doesn't really impede our progress towards that, particularly these early phases.
The early phases, no, but when we start moving down, there could be impacts where we'd be doing.
Yeah.
This is basically making upgrades, maintenance, and repairs that are much needed.
That's my concern is what you just said, that I would hope that 3 or 5 or whatever years from now, we don't have to undo what we're paying for now because it isn't part of the plan. And then someone says, well, you approved this, why did you do that if you knew?
Not with this part.
This would not, we wouldn't have to undo any of this.
Or it'd be minimal, it'd be something you expect to have to do demolition already.
If anything, it might make those improvements easier to do.
I would argue that by the time we get to the parts where it would severely impact it monetarily, we're gonna be on a whole different tangent, because we're either gonna know where that's moving forward, or we're gonna be sitting here again saying that plan's not moving for another 15 or 20 years. We need to take these next steps, because I think 1A and 2 probably have minimal impact, and that's gonna be a while before we have that kind of money.
That makes sense.
So I'm just personally thrilled if we decide to move forward, because we're doing our part as a city to bring out these substations. So thank you to everybody on the team. You may have said this, are we gonna hide or screen the commercial sanitation that's down there, or are we gonna be able to?
There's discussions.
There's options for that.
Okay.
We're exploring our options here to figure out which was.
Aesthetically, that would be great if we could figure out a way.
And it's the most long-term sustainable for our sanitation department to be able to maintain it, especially in the 7 weekends that are just a lot of work. for them to be able to figure out if there's other options and what we can make sure that this is useful for the businesses and also is, sustainable for the business as well.
It's a focal point for DICE, it's gotta be addressed,
Yeah, well said, yep. I was just, thank you. Thank you for addressing that as well. All right. Other discussions, comments? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
All right. Next is to discuss rate and fees for fiscal year 2022 and 23 for the budget for the city.
Ally handed you a document before the meeting, so you can follow it. And Beverly, I'll ask if you can post this to the agenda so people can view it, download it, because we didn't get it on time published with it, so at least it'll be online in a format where people can reference it. This year, the general fund, we'll start off with the general fund. It grew by $1.6 million from last year. That is a huge number, but keep in mind that a good bit of it was planned expenses. You've got $203,500 in grant money where the police department is looking to do a lot more in DUI and speed enforcement. So they've got that in there. Then you've got almost $400,000 for studies that need to be done in the next year. And these studies are needed so that we can make sure our rates moving forward, impact fees, things that require a study for us to adjust, is going to take place. And then we have $164,500 in capital expenses there, primarily being paid for with impact fees. We also had some unexpected expenses, like everyone else these days. We're calling these inflationary costs. $185,000 for fuel, more than last year. $108,000 more in infrastructure repair and maintenance, just the cost of materials and labor is going up. And then in personnel costs, we had a mandatory 1% increase in our retirement, and overall, the impact there is $735,800. That also includes an additional 3 full-time employees, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. One is a purchasing agent who we are confident will help us save money and be more efficient in our operations, and 2 additional sanitation workers. Below that, you'll see a table here that kind of shows you that how the personnel costs have increased. And Allie's done a really good job here of breaking that out and showing you where those differences have occurred. But keep in mind that we didn't just see this number and just say, oh, we're just going to go with it. I mean, we sharpened our pencils and we went and looked through every line item we possibly could. And we were able to cut a couple $100,000 in just efficiencies and things. And Lowell did a really good job of saying, okay, like every year we have a computer replacement program. Well, this year he says, I'm just going to buy RAM and memory and rebuild them, basically, which is what I did to my computer. I can't tell the difference. But, you know, that's a couple $100 versus a couple $1,000. And it adds up when you have computers citywide. And I think he was able to find $80,000 in that. Now, it's not a practice you want to do long term, but it's a really good solution for the situation we're in right now. Yeah, we reduced it. We were able to actually reduce the budget just by sharpening our pencils by $1.2 million. It's more than $200,000. We wanted to be able to show that we really did some work on this to try to minimize the financial impact as much as we could. The staff recommendation for the general fund. You've got a couple of options here. As far as millage increase, because unfortunately this budget is going to require a combination of millage and fees and undesignated fund balance to get us to zero. Option 1 is a 6.5 mil increase, but that includes 2 sanitation workers and a purchasing agent. Option 2 is an option that eliminates a service. It's a very popular service, but I'm going to explain to you why this is actually feasible. And I'm not saying elimination of a service, I'm going to say suspension of a service. That is curbside recycling. That would allow us to not have to hire 2 new sanitation workers because we are using impact fees in this year's budget to buy a new sanitation truck, but guess what? It won't be here for over a year. So does it make sense to hire the people when they don't have a truck to use? So right now, the market for recycling is such that it's not being recycled. So we could save $125,000 a year if we created a recycling center at Public Works facility. People brought us their recyclables instead of running a route every day. Then those employees could be used for sanitation, brush pickup, curbside deliveries, on-call demand pickups, things that we get phone calls about. We can actually enhance the service there. And then we would be able to work with people at Clemson University and other companies who we can identify that are accepting recyclables, and we could actually recycle more material this way. So I know it's a hard ask. We understand it's going to have to come with a huge public information campaign. But, you know, we could spend $125,000 and recycle virtually nothing, or we can save that money and actually get some stuff recycled. That is staff's recommendation, is to go with that option. Pardon me. Just front and back, things are hard for me to follow, guys. I mean, they're very, just want to know how the general fund can be so elusive.
So the next thing in the general fund would be the 3% increase to the residential sanitation rate. And I included a chart on there that shows, where our current rate is, and that's at the bottom in blue, and where if we, the 3%, or $3 increase would bring us.
So you said 3% at first, so.
$3 increase would bring us to $15, and you see where that stands, compared to others in the area.
Yeah, so the general fund is going to require staff's recommendation is $5.25 million increase, a $3 increase on the sanitation fee. And just to put that in perspective, right now it's $12, will be going to $15. We would need to charge $25 for it just to cover the cost of the expense. So we may be looking at slow incremental increases there, depending on what those costs continue to be. And then an additional $575,000 in fund balance. Yes, ma'am.
Andy, I have a question. So departmental budgets alone, I'm thinking of the chief who needs to hire 3 or 4 people. Does this still enable him to do that?
Yes, we have not cut staff.
Okay, that's my.
So the 575 from the fund balance, where does that leave our fund balance? Is that all of it?
You have enough money in there to meet your minimum fund balance policy. You'll actually have a small cushion.
So in other words, we won't be taking it to zero or negative?
No, you're still meeting your fund balance policy says that you need to maintain half the general fund.
Okay, so we're fine.
And you're good.
Okay, all right, but we're not going.
Under the
Limiting our
plan.
bonding or anything else.
Right. You're solvent.
But your $5.25 million increase for the $3 is without hiring the 2, it's doing away with the recycling and without hiring the 2 new sanitation people.
It is without recycling and without the 2 new sanitation people.
And the idea there is if it didn't go well for a year, then next year we maybe could have more of a phased or incremental millage and add it back if we had to.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the way I was thinking about it.
And if the market came back for recycling, we still have the vehicle, and we still have the staff, so we can unsuspend it and go back to that. That makes sense.
So what do we do with the recycling trucks for next year? Do they still operate?
We're still gonna need them, because we're gonna have to take the material we gather at, our public works facility. We'll either have to take it over to Kite Hill, if they have a material, or to the county. So we're still gonna drive it a couple times a week.
We just need to make certain that everybody understands really why we're doing it. I mean, it's not about the money as much as it is about the fact that we're kidding ourselves when we think we're actually recycling when we're not.
Yes, which is.
I mean, that's the true answer.
Mm-hmm. And this is another partnership we've developed with the university. I mean, they can't take everything.
Right.
But, you know, if we gather it at our place, they can take what they can handle.
It'll be better sorted and more likely to be recycled.
We just, like I say, Fran needs to write the articles.
You know, John, as you said that, actually, I just read an article from NPR who did a study, or did an investigation, found just what you said, that a lot of this was just a sham. Once, I guess, China stopped accepting recycling, there really
Right.
was no money in it, and places continue to do it because it's.
But you ride around our neighborhoods and people religiously do it.
That's right.
I mean, you see the green out there, or whatever color it is, the green, and I mean, so they're doing what they think is their part. The problem with it is, it's not going anywhere. We just gotta make sure.
They're doing it because that was what was shared and told to them.
I know, but everybody, but I mean, I think everybody is kind of on board.
So now you have to be able to share the other piece of it,
New message,
the new
yeah.
message, because that message, for a long time, people was not recycling in that way. But
Right.
now they are, so it's not just a matter of, you know, trying to,
Right, that's why I say,
you have to really be
gotta really explain this well.
The only thing I'll add is, that's why we're, for example, Andy, Cody, Public Works, and others have been meeting with Clemson University. That's great. Give us options to share with the community, so thank you.
And we wanted to give you some perspective. When you talk about a $3 fee increase, that sounds like a big increase, and it is. But we wanted to show you where you stood among your peer communities in the area, and you're still on the lower end, even at 15. So our fees have been exceptionally low.
Find out the feedback from the city of Easley when they eliminated their program, what kind of, be able to reach out and.
I've looked at the marketing material they put out, I read some to Andy, and they did a good job.
I mean, I think if we go back to the fact on the sanitation, I mean, for the fact that we've been charging $12 and it's costing us $25 all this time, I mean, I think it's been somewhat irresponsible on our part not to have been trying to close that gap for some time. I realize it's a lot of money, but I mean, my Lord, we've been subsidizing it forever.
So John, so if I'm reading this, Andy, we have historically been the lowest monthly rate.
Just about.
Now we're gonna go somewhere to the middle.
Lower middle,
Seems reasonable to me.
and it decreases the reliance on millage. But you don't want to completely, you try to be as affordable as you possibly can.
I think that's a good compromise.
Moving on to the water fund. Water fund increased by $536,000. And I mean, when we're looking at these, we're thinking there's mistakes. We're like, we've never seen these kinds of increases that weren't intentional before. So it's been a very sporty year in the budget. Notable increases in this account have to do with infrastructure and infrastructure repairs and maintenance, almost $500,000, $415,000, just in the cost of what it takes to get materials. Fuel went up $24,000, and then their portion of salaries, since that's not in the general fund, all those things that I talked about in the general fund, theirs went up $82,200 in the water fund. The original department request was $4.4 million, and staff reduced the proposed budget by $188,000 by evaluating cost-saving measures to increase useful life of existing IT equipment. Thank you, Lowell. And additionally, Anderson Regional's wholesale water costs were 2% less than we anticipated in an increase.
That's guaranteed for the year?
Yes. I think. But yeah, they send out a contract
I feel like
here.
home too.
Yeah. Well, normally, yes. I'll say that, okay? Our recommendation here is to do a 7% increase and use $300,000 of the undesignated fund balance to make up the difference there. You have a $1.5 million fund balance there, so you're just fine. But the problem is, if we didn't do the percentage increase, we kept it that, what looks like a very nice fund balance would deplete in just a matter of a couple of years. So, I mean, the bleeding would happen very quickly. You'll see the differences here at the proposed rates. You're seeing the inside customer. Now, we're looking at only doing the base charge for water, not the volumetric side. So you're looking at a 77-cent increase per 1,000 gallons. I mean, per bill per month, 77 cents per month. $1.66 for an outside customer. Oh, and the volume change did change, but we stuck with the rate study that was going to happen regardless, that we did, you know, the .05 and then .27 for outside.
hotels charged? So they have a base charge based on just the hotel,
They have it charged by unit.
unit, okay.
Mhm. In the wastewater fund, you had almost no fund balance there because if you recall, you spent it all on the Cochran Road treatment plant. So we are up to like a meager 400,000. Yeah, I mean, and thank goodness we had it. So this, you're gonna see that this fund went up $3,400. So if you're saying, well, if it only went up $3,400, why are you proposing a $3.79 increase on your base charge for? It's because last year we used $500,000 from fund balance this budget and an additional $100,000 in impact fees. So it's obviously in need of a rate adjustment. Now, the rate study took a lot of things into account. It did not take into account the inflation that we're seeing right now. That's the problem we're having. Fuel went up $30,000, salaries and benefits increased by $119,000. And the reason it went up for these groups in our water and sewer is because historically they have been paid at the same level as a public works maintenance worker. But the guys in utilities have to have a lot of licenses and certifications that require a lot of training and year-round updates. And we thought that was worth something. So we gave them a small adjustment this year to make that differentiation. We also had infrastructure costs there went up by $400,000. So looking at a base charge increase of $3.79. And then the volumetric side is just per the rate study that we did.
That's also per month.
Yes, and that would be per 1,000 gallons.
Along with this, are there things, and maybe this is a project for someone, but to think about, I think you were talking about the measures we used to have to help people figure out how to save water and all. What was
It's a water saver program.
Yeah.
And when we had a community development fund, we used that money to go and do water audits on people's houses.
I know we don't have the money.
We don't have it now, but there may be a grant that's available. But what we would do is we would go into people's houses, and they were people who had a low to moderate income, and we would do this audit, and there's a list like this long. We would replace all the aerators on their faucets. We would fix leaky toilets, any issue we could find. And then, by the way, if you had a leaky toilet and the floor was rotten, we're not going to put a brand new toilet on a rotten floor, so we're going to go ahead and replace the floor and get you squared away, and that was pretty successful. But then, unfortunately, we had to use all of our CDBG funds on the Little John project because we'd had them for so long. The Department of Commerce was just kind of tired of keeping up with it, and it actually became exempt from a lot of their uses. And they said, well, we're not going to give you any more CDBG money until you use all that money you've already have. So we thought, fair enough. So we can look for other.
I thought if there's other things we can.
And Allie's put together a good water and sewer comparison chart. I'll let her explain to you here to kind of give you a perspective of where you stand with these increases here.
So this chart shows what the average total bill would look like. And it considers usage of 5,000 gallons for both water and sewer. And the rates that I have on here are the rates that the other municipalities reported in 2021. And I put asterisks beside the ones that I know have increases coming in this coming budget. But you can see we're still, relatively in the middle, even with the increases proposed.
Could you also talk to them about the proposed service fees?
Yes, I can. So the new customer/administrative fee, is currently called the administrative fee, and it's an existing fee that we have when a new customer comes in and set up their account. It's currently $18, and staff is proposing to change it to $25, which is a $7 increase. And this is base, it's not slightly lower than other places around. And this includes both the girls in the office work, administrative, but also the guys that have to go out in the field and, turn all use. The unauthorized water use charge would be a new fee, and that would be a charge if someone has tampered with a meter and gets water going onto their property. This would be determined by the water usage, the meter rate. If it's not supposed to be reading, and it does, and that would be proposed at $50. A transfer fee, it would be a new fee, and we're proposing it to be $25. This would be in the event if I'm a city water customer and I purchase a new house and I'm moving there, it would be a $25 transfer fee, instead of having to start a new service up. The landlord rollover fee, it would be a new fee at $25, and this would be the case if I owned a rental and they were moving out, I need to put it back in my name until a new tenant comes in. It would just roll over it again instead of having to create new accounts. And then the disconnect for non-payment fee, currently it's called the disconnect fee, but we would like to add in there for non-payment. And it is currently $26, and the proposed is $35, which is a $9 increase. And as Heather mentioned at our workshop, this isn't every month for everyone. They do give a grace period, and a lot of these are just ones that just don't pay, they forget, or not really considering, every month, yeah, I'm late, here's $35 fee.
So that is our slate of recommendations for rates and fees for this upcoming budget year. And with your direction, if you like it as proposed, we will include this. We'll update the budget to include these, print you all off a copy for review, so you can review it before first reading on the 31st.
Question, I just want to remind everyone, we had a work session last week to discuss this as well, so thorough discussion at that meeting as well about what you're presenting, so thank y'all for the very thorough research. Thank you for the comparisons. I counted 22 here. That's seriously, that gives us a good snapshot of what's going on in the upstate, so thank you. That was on the water and sewer, obviously.
And please thank Leslie, she's next.
Leslie as well, yes.
She's online.
There is. Thanks, Leslie.
She's in Indianapolis learning. She's at a conference.
Okay. Oh, cool. So what y'all give us for after this review, we'll kind of have the enterprise departmental budgets, the more detailed budgets as well?
Yes, it'll be the full budget.
Okay.
The other?
So, are we allowed to charge additional fees when large developments like Dockside come online? They just pay the same rate as everybody else. Is there anything that we're allowed to do legally for large developments?
I think typically you have to handle them all the same. But there may be, I don't know.
The impact fees, for development, and we would be hoping to increase them with the impact fee study.
But it would be the same impact fee rates.
For everyone.
Right.
And that is a good point, though, because these guys done a great job putting this budget together, and, we've kind of got one more boost coming from the projects that are going to hit the tax rolls, but we're going to really have some challenges. So raising these rates and things moving, when you look, just from the moratorium where we kind of pause things, from the time they break ground on a project, this is going to be 3 years from them before it hits. So these fund balances we're using right now, they're a benefit of prior growth. I'm just saying, we've got to be really cautious. They're doing a good job, but there's going to be some tough decisions in the next 2 to 3 years as well. So we've got to hope the economy kind of shapes in, because after that next boost, it's going to be 3 or 4 years. The millage increase is incremental. The best we can do there is great. Right.
Any other comments? Keep moving forward. Thank you for this again. It was very thorough. Next staff report, Sandy, you're still on.
All right. We need to reschedule our development strategy work session to get those drawings in front of y'all. I've spoken with their team, and we have 3 dates to propose to you. One would be the 24th at noon, the 27th at noon, or the 28th at noon.
You said the 24th?
24th, 27th, or 28th.
28th is, what day?
28th is Saturday.
Okay, that must be the 25th.
I thought he meant, I thought he meant.
Okay, wait.
Sorry, I don't have my readers on.
Man,
Saturday.
Twenty-fourth, 25th, or I can't do the 27th.
I cannot do the 25th.
And I can't do the 24th.
Y'all.
Okay, then I could possibly move what's for me on the 27th.
Yeah, I'm free on the 27th.
Day, right?
That's this month.
Yeah, this is back. I can do the 27th. That's not, no, what day is that Monday? No,
Yeah, I can move mine, it's just a staff meeting.
Okay, great.
27th at what time?
12 p.m. We'll provide you lunch. It shouldn't take more than an hour. I've seen some of their work. They've got some very good drawings in there.
Okay.
They met with us the other day to get our feedback on some input on them. We can further refine that they relay what you guys intend.
All right, super.
Can't wait.
And then, I'm gonna let Lindsay tell you about Outside on the Avenue.
Good music, good sound,
What
together.
time do you need volunteers there?
5 o'clock.
Because we're shutting down by that time.
We're gonna push the roads as far as we can, so it'll be all hands on deck from 5 to 5:30. Get out and set up. Same format as last year. Games, tables, chairs, we've got the tailgate at Humboydt's, will be there tomorrow. Scooter Junior will be there next Tuesday. And then I'm looking at a Cuban band for the 7th, which would be during IPGA. And, we've got most on that for the.
We are, we're ready.
Robert.
Al, you wanna tell them how Shred Day went?
So we had Shred Day Saturday before last, and we collected 9,329 pounds of white paper, which is 4.66 tons. And we took in over $1,000 for Clemson Community Care and 662 pounds of food. So special thank you to Scout Troop 161 with their leaders Reno Wilson and Ralph Herndon, and Mayor Halfaker and Beverly and Lindsay, who took their time out of their Saturday to come volunteer for Shred Day. It was great to see. And then also another reminder that the June 6th council meeting will be on Tuesday, May 31st. And then IPGA, of course, will start on Sunday, the 5th, and run until Wednesday, the 8th.
MASC annual meeting, July 14 through 17 this year. Please let Beverly know, by the next meeting, May 31st, if you'd like to register.
Can you kind of get a sense on who's thinking about?
I'm thinking about it, right. I'm thinking about it, right.
I'll be out of town.
You're out of town.
Don't think I'm gonna be able, but I'll let her know.
We may have them here and maybe possibly 3. Okay, I think you're,
I got it.
Well worth the time if you can go.
They do a good job. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
did you want to talk about?
Go ahead, Lou.
I did, excuse me, I had one, I was invited, by the Municipal Association to do a presentation on my Civic app
Oh, cool.
at the risk management, meeting here for Public Works State, and what brought their attention to it was, how we're reporting potholes and how we could save money insurance-wise, and it went really well. I drove the, Columbia for the day, and I got my risk training and showed videos I really didn't want to see, but I crammed about 2 hours of my civic material in about 28 minutes. I think they got a lot out of it, so just want to share.
Great.
Thanks,
I'm
Paul.
curious if they wanted it for reporting potholes. There's so many other great things about it.
Just put highway such and such.
Especially the lower part of the state, that's
Regional
like the whole road, yeah.
Regional traffic study.
Oh, tell them the names.
Oh, you.
Well, we were awarded the $215,000 for the regional traffic study. And Anderson County is also a partner at $25,000. We are contributing $25,000, and our request at Pickens County was favorably received, and they have asked us to put their formal request on their next agenda. So I think we're actually going to have a robust enough budget here for us to have a really good study here to get major traffic improvements on the STIP that will be meaningful in the next couple of decades.
The only thing I'll add,
Y'all enjoy it.
John,
Over the next couple of decades.
I said y'all enjoy it.
the only thing I'll add is that the broad approach that y'all presented between Nathan and others, the broad approach, Ally, Andy, that was crucial. I was at the Chief House meeting this morning, and that was emphasized, that it wasn't just within the city, it's what's affecting all around the region.
We all have the same problems, we're all applying for the same money, might as well.
That made a difference, so thank you. All right, no other staff reports, then we'll go into policy action agenda. If anybody would like to share anything, we have a 2-minute limit per speaker. We still have online as well, but first is consider second reading of ordinance to amend section 1834 football reservations for the out-of-town parking rate. Lindsay? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the reading of the ordinance to amend section 1834 on football reservations for out of town.
Okay, any comments, discussion? Okay, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Next is 3 different agreements for CAT to consider a contractual agreement between the Town of Central, Southern Wesleyan, and the City of Clemson for CAT services in fiscal 2022 and 23. Andy, you're on again.
All right. These contracts are all identical to last year's contracts. There are no changes in them. The only changes we're going to propose this year have to do with our third shift service. And that will be your Clemson University and peer interview agreements, because right now our part-time drivers, and those will be on your next agenda, part-time drivers get a $2 an hour shift differential, and our full-time drivers do not. But we're having a hard time retaining full-time drivers. So we're going to propose a $2 shift differential for the full-time drivers, and there's only 3 of them. But that's going to be reflected in those agreements. So these here are unchanged, all 3 of them, identical service as last year.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve a contractual agreement between the Town of Central and Southern Wesleyan and City of Clemson for CAT transportation services in fiscal year 2022 and 2023 as presented.
Second.
Further discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, next is to talk about the Town of Pendleton.
Make a motion, we can,
There you go, jump right in. Jump right in.
make a motion, we approve the contractual agreement between the Town of Pendleton and the City of Clemson for CAT services for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Second.
Any further, discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Item C.
I'll make the motion. Consider a contractual agreement between the City of Seneca and the City of Clemson for transportation services in fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Second.
Comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much, Andy, for those, the update on CAT. Next, other policy items. Ethan, you're up one last time tonight. Consider.
I'm realizing you didn't go, this is the first time.
Oh, Ethan, you're stepping, listen, Ethan, I'm sorry.
Cutting him loose.
Ethan, you're gonna tell us about the culvert repair and the amount of $36,000 for replacing under Ashley Road.
Yes. So good evening. I'm here seeking y'all's approval to approve that quote for $36,555 to repair one of the culverts under Ashley Road. It's a 48-inch pipe that is suffering, let's just say that.
Put it out of its misery.
We put out bids, both it and the 60-inch concrete pipe beside it replaced. They both came back fine. So we went with an alternative solution, which will be to line the corrugated metal door. The price is $36,000. The lifespan of the pipe will be, according to the contractor, I believe he said, is at least 50 years for that one. And it will structurally stand independent and protect all the utilities in the road above it.
So it is $36,000 to fix 4 feet of,
60 feet of a 48-inch pipe.
60 feet of a 4 foot?
Diameter.
Okay, there we go.
But you're just really putting a sleeve in it, is what you're doing, right?
A concrete epoxy material that they'll spray it in.
Oh.
It's that spray stuff on the TV commercials?
Okay.
It's so much less expensive. We tried this in other places before. I mean, it's great that it saves the money, but, that's,
I have not tried it since I've been here, so I have to.
We've not installed this in any other pipe. A lot of times, a lot of our other concrete pipes, or metal pipes, the bottom has been rusted out so far that this is not an option to replace. The advantages of this one's actually, this pipe is set, the invert of this pipe is set about a foot above the creek, so it doesn't have that constant water and the alkalinity mix to create the rust situation that we normally see with our CMP pipes. Other CMP pipes are most likely going to need to be replaced. We just kind of got lucky with this one.
Is that what is unfeasible about it, is you'd have to replace the whole, like literally redig
Yeah, we'll
the
have
culvert?
to dig out both it and the 60 at the time. That was the plan. Approximately $60,000 over budget.
Definitely a lot less impactful in the neighborhood and traffic too.
Yes, it will, I talked with the contractor, he believes he can confine pretty much 95% of his work to the shoulder, so we probably won't have to close the road, or close the end of the road. No guarantees yet.
Ashley Road.
I can't remember.
It'll be a lot less invasive to the neighborhood.
Where's Ashley Road?
It connects to Berkeley, so it's, right behind the elementary school.
over there,
So you
but
go
Ashley,
towards-
There we go, thank you.
You get down over there.
I knew I'd seen the sign.
This will be there'll be only one culvert that will have not been repaired in the stretch from 93 to 123 on this tributary of 18 Mile.
So I just have one question. When they say like the 50 years, where do they get that? I mean, really?
They do a lot of testing, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure, but, they guarantee it, so.
They do guarantee it.
They do a testing, make sure that it, can survive basically as debris goes through it. The water does, if you even look at like old concrete pipes, it does create a erosion on that concrete pipe, just like if you touch a piece of wood that someone's walked past for 100 years. It's nice and smooth. Similar ideas to that. They'll test for UV stability. They'll test for, water intrusion and things like that to make sure that it's stable for at least 50 years before we have to look at doing a replacement.
Somebody like to make a motion?
make a motion that we approve the awarding of a construction quote for the Ashley Culvert Repair Project to the low quote of $36,555.00 as presented.
Second.
Any comments, discussion, further? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, thank you, Ethan. Nice job. Next is council reports, comments, new business. Rand? Yes, sir?
Thursday, 6:30, conversation council at the fire station. Elaine spoke tonight, she's not gonna be there Thursday, so our crowd will be reduced by probably 1/3.
Maybe not. 33%.
I will see you there, Fran.
I'll be there.
But anyway, I think it's a good opportunity again. The other thing is, Andy, to follow up on the butterfly community, are we taking that up and getting into plutonium?
Can I defer? Yeah, Catherine's taking the lead, yeah.
Catherine said yes to one meeting. So yes, we had a great meeting. So Allie was there, and Liz Boat, and Elaine Richardson, and Tony Tidwell. We had an hour-and-a-half conversation about butterflies and trees. And yes, and so we are going to try the the milkweed, and we're going to look into the seeds, and I actually just ordered 15 plants. So we are going to see what we can do. One of the next steps that Tony had a really great idea is, using some of the talents down over in engineering and all that, is to look at where we want to put the milkweed, because butterflies follow a path. And so, there's no sense sending them up to 12 Mile Beach if they're hanging out down in my neighborhood. And so that's one of the things we're gonna look at. We're gonna talk about partnering with the botanical gardens and go from there. But yeah, we talked about ways in keeping everything that we always talk about in check. We're gonna look for ways to get volunteers, either working with the Boy Scout troop. The discussion came up if we had a garden society, but the botanical garden group, the master gardeners, and Tony told me there's such a thing as master naturalist, which I did not know. So we're gonna try to find some other ways to do that. Also, the National Wild Federation, I believe that's the right one, is also giving away seeds for free. And so we've signed up to get seeds for free. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty exciting. We're gonna see where we can put them.
Is Doyle in the booth? Did you tell him that you're doing that?
Liz is talking to him. He was not able to come to this meeting, so yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, if you see him, yes.
Other comments? I'll make a quick one. I should have mentioned Bob, family. I would say, there's a good friend of his, unfortunately passed away, and so he was at a family obligation tonight, so that's why he's not. Last meeting, I don't think we got a chance. My son was in a track meet, so that was, I thought his last, by the way, track meet. It was not his last. He actually, I shouldn't say actually, we're very proud of him. He qualified as a team to go to state this Saturday, so.
This is his last guaranteed one.
The last guarantee. Well said, John. We knew the guarantee was there, but, he had a great race as well as his many teammates at Daniel, so they're doing really well. Anyway, I digress, but other comments, discussion? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.